And we are live. All right, everybody. Today's guest is a fitness and nutrition coach who's all about making exercise and nutrition simple. Matteo Marra went from being a line cook to a dedicated personal trainer and powerlifting competitor, and now he helps people build muscle, lose fat, and improve their relationship with food without overcomplicating the process. Through his brand, Marra Strength, he's known for cutting through the noise in fitness, sharing practical strategies like his 250 method, one of my favorites, I'll add, and one that I have given to clients of my own and mentioned on this podcast while crediting you, of course, and helping people navigate the ever-changing seasons of life while staying healthy. Matteo, welcome to the show.
Alex, you have got to be the cleanest intro deliverer of any podcast host I have ever listened to. I'm talking from the big times all the way down to the solo podcaster. These are the cleanest. They put people on their back foot. The kindness and just the thought that goes into those is absolutely unreal. I hope that makes its way into the ear holes of the listener.
One thing that when I started doing this and bringing on guests, because I wanted to get a few episodes in and like kind of establish some credibility, at least in the podcast world, whatever, before I started, bringing on guests. And then once I did, I told my wife, like, I need to gas the ever living shit out of these people. Like, I need to gas them up. I need to make them feel like $1,000,000. I need to get smiles going before. And so it's like whatever I can do. Sometimes I had Amanda Thebe on, and she had sent me like a signed copy of her book back about a year ago, and so I reread her book in preparation for it and was like scouring through that. I was looking at all the interviews that she's been on because it's like I want to hype this person up as much as possible. Anyways, seriously though, the pleasantries aside, I truly do mean all the things that I say, especially about you. I think you stand out to me as one of the people that makes it. You just have the most practical strategies, not just looking at your YouTube, not just looking at your Instagram, but like everything, every single bit, your website, like it is extremely impressive and people seem to resonate it. And I do want to get into that. But before we do, tell me about the story. I always love hearing the story of how people got into the industry. Now, I saw the Cliff Notes version of your website. You used the word overweight line cook. I did not want to use the word overweight. I'll let you say that. But please give us the story. How did you get to where you are right now?
Yeah, awesome. I think most personal trainers either follow the pathway of lifetime athlete. I've always been in great shape, and so I excel at things. I excel at sports. People always look up to me for guidance, and so I'm happy to pass it down. Or they follow the other path of I was unhappy with my body. I turned things around, and wow, it made me feel amazing, and I can't wait to share this with other people. I fell into that latter category where I had always just kind of been the chubby kid in my family, and I played a ton of video games growing up, and sports were never my thing. Even though I was involved, I was just never really into it. And then I got myself into a very stressful job where I worked a ton after coming out of cooking school, after high school. And if you've ever worked in a restaurant, Alex, you know that it's not a super conducive environment to healthy living. There's a lot of late nights, a lot of hours, and the folks that tend to find themselves in those jobs aren't exactly the folks who you'd be, calling up to go for a weekend hike on a Saturday morning or something like that, right? Or hungover, or out for brunch or whatever at 12 o'clock. So I found myself there, standing over a deep fryer, dropping wings in after my sixth Clopen double in a row or whatever. And I was like, man, this is probably not where I want to be going. Just looking ahead at the people whose positions I was going to be filling in a few years down the road, like, man, is this really where I want to go? And there was a time when I did think that being a chef was my calling. I mean, I love food still, and I think it's just going to be a passion of mine forever. But so in any case, I started kind of just doing it on my own, losing some weight, starting to do some push-ups and some calisthenic stuff in the park near my house, and just kind of getting excited about training and weight loss. And one thing led to the next, and then before you know it, my brother and I bought a squat rack for the garage at our mom's place, and doing 5x5, and it's a slippery slope.
Yep.
Before you know it,
Yep.
you're tracking your protein, and then flexing your bicep, and um, yeah. So a few years into that, after getting myself some good progress, I thought, wow, this is absolutely amazing. It totally changed my worldview and just how I live on a daily basis. And that's when I thought, okay, you know what? Maybe I actually can help some other people do this. Maybe I can make a career out of this, um, and get myself out of working in the kitchen environment, which was really taking away from my quality of life at that point. Because there was just so much friction there too. At that point, I'm like, I'm into working out, I'm into eating well, and um, the folks I was working with were kind of on the other side of the spectrum as far as health and wellness goes. So um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's something that, first off, I love your story. Okay. And it's actually kind of similar to mine. I didn't go to cooking school. I don't know jack shit about cooking, like I can bake some cookies if I'm following a recipe, and like, I'm not super dumb. My wife is phenomenal in the kitchen. And so thank God she handles a lot of our meals, because otherwise it would just be, trial and error. I'd learn it. I'm confident enough that I would learn it, but yeah, she's a great, but okay. Let me ask you, and actually, before I ask you this question, the rest of your story, starting to do some push-ups, it was very similar for me. It was my friends kind of got me into the gym. I was playing soccer, but big video game guy, still am. I'm actually really excited to try to take down the final boss of season 2 of the World of Warcraft raid tonight. So like big time nerd. I think as far as nerdy video games go, World of Warcraft is the upper echelon.
Oh yeah, dude, that
Um,
was me.
yeah,
Oh, dude, for many years, my friend and I were in a kind of a hardcore. I wouldn't call it hardcore, but as close to hardcore as
yeah,
you can be without being hardcore. Raid Guild in high school,
yeah.
I was skipping classes, staying up late. Um, Man, the hours logged. I wish I could go back
Oh
and
yeah.
access my account and do the slash played and just
Yeah.
see.
Oh, you know. Oh, you know. Yeah. Slash played. Yeah. That's a scary action or a line to put in, because then it's like, oh God,
Do I
what could
want
I
to
have
know?
done with that many time? With that
Yeah.
much time, and it's not hours for the people listening. It's not hours. It's not tens of days. It might be 50, 100. It's a lot of playtime, guys. It's a lot, and you have multiple characters. Then you'd have to go to like 3, 4, 5 different characters, see what the playtime on all of
Yeah.
them.
For those who don't
Um,
know, you can type into the game
oh, right, yeah,
played, and it'll tell you how many hours you've logged with the screen on, just doing stuff with your character. Which for a lot of people playing this game, you're just kind of socializing for a lot of it, just
yeah,
running around, jumping, talking to your friends. So it's
yep,
like you know an unbelievable amount of time. I wish I had one for the gym where I could be
yeah,
like slash
seriously,
reps, and it would just tell
yeah,
me like,
right.
"Yo, you've done this many sets."
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then yeah, you getting a squat rack in your mom's basement with your brother. For me, it was oh, back to the push-ups though. It was, so I started getting into the gym, and then but back then 2012 I went to college, and I was like scared of going to the gym. It was like I was so skinny and whatever, and anxious about that. So I was like, okay, Manny Pacquiao does 1,000 push-ups a day. I could do 500 a day. So I just did 500 a day. And it's like, it's way easier when you break it out across the day. It's not like I did 500, just like, bam, repped it out. I
Yeah.
spread it out across, and I did that. I committed to do that every single day for a year. And I feel like that was pretty pivotal. Now, I
Whoa.
will say my legs, you know, you
Zero.
do push up, right? Yeah, you do push ups. You don't actually grow your legs literally at all, but my chest grew a good bit, which was cool. But anyway, and then squat rack, and once I did the last or the next, I was in college 5 years. The next 4 years, I went back home to a different college, and I did get the squat rack as well from Amazon. One of my buddies who lived just in the same neighborhood, he would come over, and 3 times a week we'd do the five by
Five
five
by
as
five.
well. Yes, dude, yes. And so it's like the squat, bench, deadlift, and like
Drink the milk.
we didn't know anything about good form. We didn't really know nutrition. Like, yeah, those were the good days, and we were doing I see you're doing jiu-jitsu now. And actually, funny enough, I also, my first and only tournament, I I was really jazzed, and I was like, I'm gonna do, like, I've been training for this. I kind of went in with the expectation of like, I'm not a killer, like I know there's levels to this. Like I'm a humble white belt, right? But went in, gave it my all, lost every round, or lost every got submitted, right? In each
Yeah.
one, in each bout, I suppose I could call it. But yeah. Anyway, so let's go back to cooking school. How has that translated to? Do you feel like you've learned skills that have translated and have helped you kind of navigate things with your clients specifically?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is probably the thing that kept me in the game as a trainer when I was working at the gym that I worked at downtown Vancouver here. Um, I think a huge part of why I was able to get people results at the gym and keep them as clients and get new clients and uh, just make sure that people had a good experience with personal training was down to the food side of things. I think also it makes me a little bit more relatable. Uh, Number one, because if we're having a personal training session, the odds that I'm getting fired up talking to you about something food related and able to tease something out of you and relate with you about food is pretty high. Everyone eats, and I know that there's some shit that I can ask you about, and you'll be like, I had this mac and cheese or whatever. I'll be like, oh, bro, I love that. Instead of just it being chicken, rice, and broccoli is
Right.
very, it's hard to connect with that. And yeah,
Yeah.
being able to say, look, literally, this is how you make a grilled cheese. And if you add turkey breast, not only is it really good, but it's high protein now. And being able to break that barrier down a little bit for people who think they're bad at cooking, um, you know, I think that's helped a lot of people make a lot of better choices. And yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It definitely has helped me with my clients, and it's something I use with people. I mean, literally on a daily basis when I'm interacting with clients. I literally just came from the gym. I was seeing a guy, the last person I ever trained in person here.
That's awesome.
Um, I saw this guy today, and I just put him onto. Do you guys have Siggy's yogurt where you live?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I just put him onto Siggy's, and because he was just a big like granola and milk guy, and I was
Yeah.
like, hey man, love it. Let's keep the granola, but check this stuff out. They also have like this raspberry flavor that's off the hook. They have like all these other ones. This banana one is really good. There's a black cherry. And he's like, I'm not really a yogurt guy. I was like, trust me, it's not what
Yeah.
you
Right.
think. Try
Wait.
it. Yeah. And he was just telling me today, he's like, my whole family's hooked. Um, so yeah, I think, making food a little bit less mystical and a little bit less of a logistical headache for people, it's just such a powerful thing that a coach can do to help them.
So you went from, line cook to kind of getting into fitness, and like you said, it's a slippery slope. What did the start of your, career look like, and then what were some of the major pivotal moments that got you to where you are now with a wait list? I hope you don't mind me saying this. You have a wait list on this new program, and it's at what, 1,200 people? Is that right?
There are a ton of people. I'll look
I
at it.
mean,
But it
that
is
is
cool.
insane. That is
Yeah.
absolutely insane. So, tell me about the major milestones and what kind of pivotal moments have gotten you to where you are now.
Yeah. That's a great question. I think major milestone number one was joining this personal training facility that I worked at downtown Vancouver, which would have been probably the busiest personal training gym in Vancouver. Obviously, we're talking about Vancouver here. This is a small city compared to like LA or New York or something like that, but it was cranked. People were coming in there for sessions 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I worked with another gentleman by the name of Sean Alt. He kind of mentored me, took me under his wing, and showed me, hey, look, there are these guys out there who've done all this training stuff, and take a look at this guy. His name's Eric Cressy. He does all this training and sport performance stuff. Check out this book. This is called, whatever. And then I just kind of started getting handed clients, and yeah, some days it would be like three clients separated by 4 hours each, and whatever. I think anyone who's worked in a PT job knows what I'm talking about. But cutting my teeth, I think we can call that era where I'm just learning how to interact with regular people and how to coach them, and also largely myself, just still deepening my understanding of the training process, which is something that's still going on today. But that was, I think, a huge thing for me to be like, wait a sec. So you're telling me, number one, that these bodybuilding.com forums that I read aren't like the only way to, oh, look at that thumbs up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Number one, the bodybuilding.com forums aren't like the only way to train. And number two, there are real people out there who can't just track everything they eat and train 5 days a week. And they have all these other real world limitations that I need to work around. But also now I need to interact with a human being and communicate with them in a way that they understand, get them on board with doing uncomfortable things that are new and different, help them to, feel excited about the process and create buy-in for them. So that, I think, was like an essential element of getting to where I am today. If we can talk about like a big step in the right direction, that was a formative process for me. Eventually, I think the next step would be me getting to a couple of years down the road when I've had a packed calendar at the gym for a few years and I'm making something like $24, $25 an hour. We're talking Canadian dollars here too. This is monopoly money practically. Uh, so I'm like, all right, this is great and all, but I'm not making that good of money. And I asked for a raise and it's not really happening. And work environment, not amazing. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start this thing on my own and see what I can do. And so we moved away from Vancouver. We moved north, outside the city, to a place where I can get a little bit more space, a place with a garage.
Nice. That's big.
And yeah, you know what that means.
Oh
Any
yeah. Oh
personal
yeah.
trainer listening is like, oh, a garage?
Yeah. Yeah. Headlights on.
Yeah. So we put some rubber flooring down and I bought a used squat rack and some adjustable dumbbells, an adjustable bench, and a Concept 2 rowing machine. And that was the birth of the Marra Strength listing on Google My Business, whatever. And then I put out a Facebook list, just a Facebook post in the local group here. Hey, I just moved to town. I was also really getting into outdoor adventure sports stuff at the time. So I was like, hey, I'm in town. I love climbing. I like biking. I love skiing. I also just opened up this personal training facility in my garage, and I'm looking for some people to coach. Super inexpensive. Give me a call. And I ended up getting something like 15 or 20
Wow.
clients right off the bat in like the
That's
first month.
awesome.
Yeah, I wasn't making a ton of money, but I was probably making the same as I was making before. And all of a sudden, I was like, wow, this is something I could really get used to. This is incredible. Um, Working more on my own terms, getting to work more with the types of people that I wanted to work with, being able to do the programming more in a way that I wanted that didn't have to fit the mold of the gym that I was working at. That was like, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. Um, and man, there's something so wholesome about having your clients just like ride their bike down the street, park it outside your garage. You got the door open on a spring day, playing your music from your speaker, and they're working
Yeah.
out. And then, the next client comes up and they high five and say, like, hey, good job, like, have a great workout.
That's so
There's
cool.
that's like, that calls to me that type of community connection. Do you mind if I go on another like short little tangent here?
No, please, please,
Okay,
please.
cool. My girlfriend and I always joke that if ever there was a time where we're like, we don't need to work anymore, we don't have any financial needs for anything, we just like, we'd love to open up a bakery where
Yes.
we don't make a
Yes,
ton of
dude.
money or anything, but just like people come in and we make fritters and just like we get to shake hands with people and say hi. And um, I love that. I love that sense
Yeah.
of community and that sense of being able to interact with people, which is part of, I think, why we get to the next evolution of, hey, I'm now watching these group program things and I get to see
Yep.
people interacting. You see that with your people too. And in Forward Forever and A Team, I'm sure you see people interacting and kudosing each other and like celebrating wins and sharing their challenges. there's something about that that you do not get in a one-on-one personal training hour.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. I often say that like the greatest thing that you can build and the hardest thing to build is not revenue, it is community. It is so complicated to try to generate that conversation and to you can't force the ties, right? You have
Mm,
to try to create conversation and get these complete strangers without ever meeting each other like face to face, right? And like that actually is a window of opportunity for a lot of group programs out there is real life meetups. I know Beth Farraco is doing that with some of her people. And that is a brilliant thing to do is because then you just strengthen and deepen those ties. You get those, from a revenue point perspective, you know, you're probably increasing the likelihood that that person is a lifelong, subscriber for you or at least devoted follower for you. So it's good for business sense, but it's also good because if people don't have that support system, maybe with their spouse or with their friends, they can get it from that community. So it's like, it's a win from the business perspective, but it's also a win for this is going to improve their habits, their health, So it's a win-win, definitely. Let me
yeah.
ask you this. You really enjoyed, and I think I know, but and it's funny, I actually didn't plan on talking about business because I think you have so many practical tips that I want to get into that stuff too. But I do want to ask, so you really enjoyed the physical, in terms of like you having people come in and out of your gym. What inspired the change to move more toward virtual?
That's a really good question. It was actually the limitations imposed by the British Columbia government, largely, I think, that facilitated the changes. Yeah, yeah. During COVID, I don't know about you live in Montana? Where do you live, Alex?
Michigan. Michigan.
Michigan. Oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
I knew it was someplace cold that started with an M.
Yeah, you were
That was like
close. I mean,
near the border.
it was like that or Maine, Montana or Maine, and you were Minnesota. Yeah, that's
Damn, I
another
didn't
M
know
one
how
that's.
many ways I could have gone wrong there. Crazy. Um, but anyway, I don't know how it was for you, but for us, it was like, all right, you can go to restaurants and you can go to gyms and go to bars. Okay, no, you can't. All right, yeah, you can. And then no, you can't. Uh, so I was, and people were getting, I don't know if they were just making a big deal out of it, but people were getting fined for going to restaurants and restaurants were getting fined for being open.
Yeah.
And so for me, with my place, I was like, this is kind of spooky. This is the only way I make money. Um, so I um, I started giving my in-person clients online support
Yeah.
as far as just program stuff they could do on their own, and originally just started with Google Sheets, spreadsheet stuff. I actually created a program for outdoor people that I just kind of gave away for free during COVID. That was like my original email list. Totally forgot about that until now. But in any case, they loved it. They really liked being able to have that and being able to message me about stuff. Uh, Mostly it was just like us chopping it up
Hmm.
and sending memes. Um, but then they really enjoyed it. And I was like, hey, I can just keep doing this. It'll be more inexpensive. You can come see me once a week if you want. And some people were like, yeah, this is like great. I mean, maybe I'll just come see you once a month. Yeah, cool. And then some people were like, you know what? I think I know what to do in the gym. You showed me all the technique and everything. Can we just have this? Yeah. All right. Sweet. Um, and then it definitely, I will be honest, like a big part of it is the business side of things.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 managing 25 or 30 hours of personal training per week, depending on how many sessions per person you do per week. Um, that is a hardy load of both administrative work and
Yep.
in-person hours.
Yes. Because it's cleanup too.
Oh,
It's like it's the setup, it's the cleanup. It is, yeah. It's trying to navigate everybody's schedules. It
right.
is the billing, and then like not knowing if they're if they get sick or something, are you going to get sick then? And like it's just there's so many logistical factors that beyond just like the scaling, which that is a big part of it too.
True.
But yeah,
But
the
that's part of what
pandemic.
makes it great for the client too, right? Is all those
Yes.
logistical things. that exists on their end too. They have to call and be like, "Can you do Thursday at like?" Ugh, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now they
The
just go into the
pandemic
app
was
and
the same thing for me. It was
yeah,
I was doing group training at the time, and I was kind of in between some different things. I was doing medical device sales. I was considering working, for my parents and their business, but I just wanted more flexibility. I kind of want to do my own thing, and yeah, so it was like 2020. We're stuck inside, can't really do much. Can go to the grocery store, but that's it. And so I was like, I saw some other people doing online coaching, and I was like, fuck it, I can do that. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I could definitely do that. And then that was what was, really like the trigger for starting to learn a ton, and yeah, so on and so forth. Anyway, a few minutes ago, actually, about 9.5 minutes ago, for people who want to scroll back to this, um, yeah, 10 minutes now. You said real people can't always track everything that they eat. I totally agree with this. And that's why I love some of your practical strategies. So much of weight management in the short term, but also in the long term, comes down to sustainable eating habits. But most people kind of still focus on extremes, no matter how many times we can reinforce it that the practical habits win out. So what are some key nutrition habits that you emphasize to help people lose weight without feeling miserable?
nice. That was awesome. Yeah, the great question. I think a few of the things that make weight loss so hard and so crappy at times are feelings of physical hunger, feelings of psychological restriction, as in, I can't go see my friends at this restaurant, I can't eat dinner with my family, or I want a thing and I can't have it. Ooh, ooh, brother, ooh. Physical hunger speaks for itself. That sucks. Nobody wants the headache, the lethargy, the grumbling stomach. What else makes losing fat horrible? Oh yeah, logistics of like, okay, I have to prep these meals and cook and whatever else. So I think those are kind of like the three big ones that kind of suck. So some things to work around those. As far as physical hunger goes, uh, some good strategies are staying busy. I find to be really helpful for people. I also am not a huge fan of snacking, but I think this might just be my personal bias because some of my clients thrive with it and they enjoy it. Some really, when they come away from it, they're like, why did I ever do this in the first place? Obviously, food choices is amazing. I think being able to structure a plate and look at it and say, look, this should have some fruit, some veg, maybe starch, some lean protein on it. That's going to help me feel good and satisfied. A big overlooked one that I don't see a lot of coaches talking about online for some reason is distractions. Bro,
Yes.
like
Yes.
people love to just eat with the YouTube just like directly burning into the retina like
Watching
this.
Marra strength videos,
Oh, of
by the
course.
way.
Yeah. I'm 0. 0.5 times speed because I speak way too fast sometimes. Um, but yeah, distractions are a huge one.
Yeah.
Um, and then as far as restriction goes, something I know you're a big proponent of, and I think anyone could really benefit from, is just the moving away from the good foods, bad foods mentality.
Yeah.
It does so much more harm than good.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
like, what do you gain out of that? I mean, if I were to just really red team myself, I'd be like, all right, I guess if you're like, there are good foods and there are bad foods, and processed foods are bad and unprocessed foods are good, like, more of your diet will definitely be oats and chicken and everything, I guess. But like, what you stand to lose is just so much greater.
Yeah.
And
And
we're
and
talking,
and I'm worried about, the kids too. The kids who that you are potentially, whether it is nieces, nephews, or your own children, or cousins, or whoever, who don't understand that kind of. And I think there is a depth of knowledge to understand that, like, ultra processed foods can be healthy potentially, right? And so the processing, how the processing degree of a food isn't inherently going to make a food better or worse. So I think, yeah, that is something that I feel very strongly about. I think those were really, really helpful. I loved the way that you break things down. It's just like, here are the problems, here are the practical things that you can do. I think just, yeah, non
yeah,
undistracted eating, That's a tough one because people have screens everywhere. I mean, me looking right now, I have my phone here. I got one monitor. I got another monitor. I got my PlayStation and the TV down there. It's like I go into my kitchen slash living room. It's kind of one open big space. It's like we have
Yeah,
our laptops in front of us, both of our phones, a TV behind us. I'm guilty of it. I'm definitely guilty of it,
yeah,
but I totally agree with you. Yeah.
yeah. Time and place too for these interventions. Like, I think if it's not something you have an issue with, and like having trouble maintaining or managing your weight or whatever you want to do, then like only implement what's necessary.
All right, so you've talked about the importance of making nutrition simpler and not over analyzing, necessarily every single calorie. And my favorite rule of yours that I have completely adopted on my own, I always give you credit because that's important to me. Your 250 rule, the 250 method.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. Can you explain it for my audience and how it helps people stay on track without getting super obsessive, especially if they're eating out at restaurants?
Yeah, the 250 method is great. The 250 method is a strategy that you can use to help you estimate the amount of calories in a family meal or a restaurant meal with unknown calorie values and macros, if you're into that kind of thing. So basically, all you do is when you go up to sit down and eat with your family, and let's say you go to your mother-in-law's house and she's made a beautiful lasagna, you're not going to ask your mother-in-law how many calories are in that lasagna, or she'll slap you across the face and ask you to leave. They probably get a divorce too. So what you need to do is, and this is free relationship and marriage advice as well, what you probably need to do is just estimate the calories in that food. Otherwise, you're just saying YOLO and not logging anything and not having a clear picture of the impact of that food. So what I like to do is I just look at the food in front of me. I ask myself, is this 0 calories? The answer is usually no. So you say, okay, is it 250? And if you think it's more than 250, then you say it's 500. If you think it's more than 500, then it's 750. You're just estimating in 250 calorie increments, rounding up when you're not sure. And once you've decided on a value that you think is a fair estimation, you enter into your food logging app, if you're using one, and you just find a comparable food. Homemade lasagna. Guarantee you there's an entry in MacroFactor, MyFitnessPal, Trainer Ice, whatever you use. And then you just scale up the portion size until it says 1,000 calories, 1,250 calories, or whatever you decided on. You click log and you move on with your life, never worrying about it again. That imperfect action and your ability to remain calm and still do something and use a bit of a dial method or dimmer switch instead of just saying, you know what, screw it. I had lasagna, the whole day's ruined. Your ability to do that over a long period of time and stay flexible during those type of situations has a meaningful impact on your ability to stay on track long term. And I think
100% agree.
psychologically, if you do that, you're out at a meal and you're like, God, I had all these tacos, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, what's Matteo going to think? What's Alex going to think when he looks at my food logs, blah, blah, blah. And you wind yourself up and you feel like a failure because of this. That sucks as well. And being able to avoid that and turn it into a positive and win, be like, you know what? I think it was probably like 1,500 calories. Like, I definitely way overate, but at least
No
I was
idea.
like, tacos, 1,500,
Yeah.
whatever. And then you log it and you're like, I did the thing. I actually did a success today. That's great. That's cool too.
I always tell people how excited and happy and grateful I am when I see a high calorie day because I
Yeah.
say you tracked it. Like I do not care that you ate 4,000 calories on that day. I care that you gave me the data because
Yeah.
now we can work with that. If I'm losing data, and we can work on habits and stuff like that. But if we choose to work with data and we collect that data, oh my God, I'm so happy when I'm able to see that. So I totally agree with that. And staying flexible is I think one of the most important things. And you said imperfect action is so valuable. And I totally agree. Most people I find who struggle with consistency, it is due to their rigidity. They have not been able to find the right tools or methods or habits to allow themselves that flexibility. So whether it's social events or cravings or just feeling generally burned out, staying long term or staying on track long term for those kinds of people can be tough. what advice do you have for people who find themselves constantly starting over, air quotes, when it comes to their diet?
Yeah, nice. That's an awesome question. I think for the folks who find themselves consistently starting over with diets, it may be worth just reevaluating what you're trying to get out of what you're doing. If you're constantly like, all right, I'm going to start a diet and lose 15 pounds, and then you get a couple weeks in, you lose a couple pounds, and then you backslide and give it all back or whatever, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to start again. It may be worth just reevaluating and saying, is this a good strategy for what I'm trying to get, and what am I trying to get here? If you realistically just want to feel a little better, you want to lose a couple pounds, um, I think taking a bit of a step back and saying, how can I set things up in a way that doesn't set me up for a win-loss scenario, but just almost certainly sets me up to be in a better place a few weeks from now. That would be a better way of going about it. Let's just call it like a more conservative approach. Instead of, all right, I'm going to track all my calories and macros and drop my calories to 1,200 and cut out these foods and these foods, it might be worth saying, all right, look, what are some fundamental things that I might be missing? And this is so fucking hard to do as a person who's in that situation, who's never known anything but just crank the calories or cut the foods or whatever. But being like, is there a way I could improve things here habit wise, whether that's eating without distractions or making sure I'm getting protein at every meal, or just improving my baseline a little bit here, tracking my food or using the 250 method, or doing something that's a little bit more forgiving to start before I dive into going hardcore. I think that's a big part of it. I honestly think that a lot of people jump into far too aggressive um, dietary and exercise regimes before they're ready to handle that kind of thing. And consistency dropping off is pretty much guaranteed. I mean, like you wouldn't join the, I don't know anything about car racing, but like Formula One, Indy 500, Grand Prix, whatever, you wouldn't join that stuff when you just got your new license. And a lot of these folks, without knowing it, are throwing themselves into like what a lot of seasoned fitness pros and dieters would consider like extreme situations. Like
Yes.
man, bro, I couldn't survive that for a week. And like, I feel like I can do some hard stuff, but like, whew, no wonder you have a hard time sticking to it. It's way too much. It's way too restrictive. So,
I
yeah,
frequently use the analogy that you know, and I don't want to be reductive toward people's capabilities, but I do frequently use the analogy of if your child wanted, let's say you have a child, he or she is, let's say he is 4 years old, and he says, "Mom, Dad, I want to play basketball," and you're like, "Great, let's go get a basketball hoop," and you get one of those little toy ones. And he's shooting a hoop or something like that, or maybe he's 12 years old or whoever cares, whatever, it doesn't matter how old he is, but he's shooting hoops and he's missing a lot, and you're like, Timmy, you suck. Timmy, you're terrible at this. What, I thought you were going to be dunking. I watched LeBron James on the TV every night, and I see him dunk. Why can you? You've been watching him the last few days. Why can you not dunk? Why can you? And that's like the expectations that some people put on themselves with these rates of weight loss, with these more extreme dietary patterns. And I think a lot of people think that if I do those extreme things, it will shorten the time span. But in reality, what ends up happening is like the shortcuts kind of end up becoming the long cuts,
yeah,
like they end up being, it's this go super aggressive burnout, go super aggressive burnout, go super aggressive
yeah,
burnout. And there's a difference between, I just posted about this the other day about like more aggressive fat loss, and there is a time and place for being more aggressive with fat loss. It's absolutely somebody's prerogative, but it's less about that and more about the extreme habits that somebody probably won't. Okay, quick shift. One thing that you mentioned here was kind of aligned with assuming the identity of the person that you want to become. And identity is obviously so important in long term change. And I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you experienced the start of your identity shift when you were standing over the air fryer, or not air fryer, sorry, the fryer, and thinking about your future. And so how has strength training shaped your mindset and your approach to life outside of the gym.
Yeah. Nice. That's awesome, man. I think a lot of lifters will find, or people who get into lifting weights in any capacity will find that after a few months, you look back and you realize that all those workouts you did got you incrementally closer to where you wanted to be.
Hmm.
And even though you're not where you want to be in a lot of cases, you're like, wait a sec, I'm moving. I'm moving in the right direction. And there's no way I could have lifted this for this many reps, however many days ago. And it's very black and white to be like, especially in powerlifting stuff, which I was super into before, you know that you couldn't have squatted 405 for whatever reps, even one. So you're like, the fact that I'm even unracking this is crazy, but 100% guarantees that I've been moving forward. And you can feel all types of ways about I should have started sooner, I could have done this, and I would have been here, blah, blah, blah. But just seeing the power, I think, of that, whatever you want to call it, compounding or incremental gains or whatever, that's a really cool thing. Um, and I think it does change your worldview in a lot of ways, especially, I would say, in the sense of, um, just realizing that learning is such a huge part of this whole process. Being a person and training with strength training stuff, uh, learning in your bones and in your brain both, is such a huge thing. Oh, hello, my dog's right in here. Hello. Here, let's see if we're on video. Oh,
If you guys have video on, turn video on right now. You can see Mateo's dog.
I wish you could see her belly was out. Oh, this is so silly. That's Kiba. Um, yeah, but yeah, you know, you really, I think, don't know, um, just how much those little things can add up until you've chased a big goal, and realize that it's just going to take a bunch of hours, whether that's writing a book or getting a big squat or building a business or whatever. It's just going to take a bunch of reps. As like cliche as that is for me as an athlete to say, it is in a lot of cases just reps, right?
It
Ask
is, yeah.
anyone of something big they accomplished. Odds are good. Like, yeah, they had some luck along the way, but a lot of times it's just about showing up. John Cena had a really great quote the other day that I heard. I love John Cena. I think he's just a legend. He also drives my dream car, which is a Honda Civic Type R, which I think is so cool. Um, but he said, look, man, I realize that I've been handed lottery ticket after lottery ticket after lottery ticket. I'm lucky. I've been given every opportunity to have the best chance at success in life. So that I know that a lot of this I've been gifted, but every day when I kind of wake up, uh, I do my best to move towards where I want to be. And in the evening, I just kind of reflect and think, have I moved towards where I want to go? And some days I don't, and that's fine. I encourage myself mentally to try again the next day, but that's all I could have done that day. Is even if it was relaxing and that was the best thing for me to do that day, I recognize that that's me moving forward. And I'm like, man, it really is just kind of that incremental progress.
And I love that, it is about the reps. It is about you prove it to yourself well, let me back up. Not every single day. You don't prove it to yourself every single day. You prove it to yourself over time, because are we going to work out? If we want to be a fitness person, are we going to work out every single day? No, that's kind of the opposite of what, like, of the flexibility that we want people to embrace.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to, eat a highly nutritious diet every single day? No, not necessarily. And that's absolutely okay. It's about racking up that consistency and that frequency of change.
Yeah.
And some people, they may get down on themselves because, as seasons of life change, the holidays come, you get busy at work, you have more stressors, those priorities, they might shift a little bit, but that doesn't mean, you are a failure. But for the people who feel like they are trying to balance fitness and nutrition with everything else in their life, and they are struggling with one of those seasons, whether it's work, whether it's stress, whatever, family, whatever it is, what would your advice be to help them find that balance?
Mm, yeah. I hate I hate hearing myself say things that I think are cliche because when I was younger, I would be like, wow, that's so cliche. They always say, oh, put in the reps, blah, 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 whatever. But now I realize that a lot of that shit is just wisdom. It's just
Yeah.
people going through it. Um, and when I was young, I was just more ignorant to the fact that they had been through something and I thought I knew better. And in the case of finding out how to balance everything, I would say a big part of it again is just asking yourself why this is important to you. If you know that you want to set a great example for your children so they can, whatever, be healthy or whatever, or you want to improve your health because your doctor told you your A1C is through the roof, and like if you don't fix that, it's going to be bad news bears. Um, t- Finding out exactly what drives you and what you're trying to get out of it, I think, makes the whole process a lot easier. And it makes finding or makes those decision making moments a lot easier when it comes time to prioritize fitness or healthy eating over other things. Making that decision to watch 15 minutes less of your favorite show in the evening and go for a walk with your partner becomes so much easier because you're like, look, we're on a team together and I want to get my health in check so I can be there for our family. Yes, I love this show. I love, this anime or whatever we're watching together. That's great. But like, I want to do this for us. Hey, let's get up. Let's go for a walk. Um, and then the second part of it, I think, would be finding the strategies that give you the most bang for your buck and are the lowest friction for fitting in with your life. Finding ways to prepare meals that take you very little time, finding ways to get workouts in that are time effective, or exercise in general that's time effective. That's why I mentioned walking, is because you can put your shoes on and walk out your front door and it starts the second you're ready to do so. So finding, I think, strategies to make it fit in and having a really important why behind it all makes those sacrifices, which is ultimately what prioritization is choosing one thing over the other, even though both are things you want. Um, it makes that so much easier. Being like, well, I only have 15 minutes, but I know that I could like bang out some push-ups and bodyweight squats in the garage. And I also know that like, even though it's not perfect, if I just did this today, it would definitely move me in the right direction. Um, I think those two are the big things.
I think you absolutely crushed that. I hope the listeners are furiously taking notes. And one of the things, one of the two pieces of that is the why. And I think a lot of people might think, oh, finding obstacles to strategies, or I'm sorry, finding strategies to overcome obstacles. That makes sense. I think that, by the way, is one of the most pivotal changes or pivotal components of what a coach can do for somebody is finding creative solutions to their obstacles and finding a way to make it cohesive in their life, and not just for them but also for their family, but the other part of that, in addition to the obstacles, was the why, the finding your why. And I think that is such an important one. Anytime I do a sales call with I hate saying sales call, discovery call, whatever, with a client, because I don't like to sell necessarily, but
Yeah.
whatever we want to call it, a discovery call with a new client. I have been doing this thing for maybe 4 years now. Where are you familiar with the 5 whys method? It's like
Yeah.
semi-popular. Yeah, I figured
Yeah,
you
it's
would
cool.
be. Yeah, so I do that, and it's just like oh, I want to lose 15 pounds, and gain some muscle. It's like, okay, why? And they're like, well, because it would make me, help me, get in shape, and I'd feel a little bit better, and I want to be healthy for my family. Okay, why do you want to be healthy for your family? And it's like we just start going down, and I'm just ripping off the layers of onion until we get to the center of it. And I'm going to say like 60-70% of the time I get tears on like the third, fourth, or fifth layer of that onion. And it's so I completely agree with you with those two things. It's finding out the why of like somebody, what is this about for them, and using that as an anchor. Anytime they start kind of, the boat starts shifting, we can tie down that anchor and just remind them of like, this is what you're doing this for. But then
Yeah.
also, what obstacles are you facing? How can we be creative, and how can we solve them?
Yeah, dude. One thing. Sorry to riff on that again for a little second here.
Yeah, please.
One thing that I've been learning a ton recently about is, or I've just been really interested in personally, is like relationships and communication stuff. Um, my partner Jay, she's an excellent communicator. She has a very high emotional intelligence. She is the big part of the puzzle, and I'm like the little part of the puzzle in that department, or at least I was really at the beginning of our relationship. And leaning more into that emotional intelligence and empathy side of things
Yes.
has like dramatically enriched my life this past year. It's been crazy, and that's been a lens through which I've learned a lot about myself and the world and all this stuff this year. And that why of bringing it back to the why has been such an important thing for us in our relationship. When it's like, okay, we're both like tense or like talking about something and we can't see eye to eye on it, and we're like, what the hell, blah blah blah, or like we find ourselves like, raising our voices, or bickering about something, and we'll be like, okay, hold on a second, like let's just sit down here for a sec. What are we working towards here? Like we're both trying to assemble this piece of furniture so we can
Yeah.
both sit on it and have an amazing home, and
Yeah.
like both work productively and then relax and enjoy our space and feel good about it. Is that what we're both working on right now? And we both feel like, yeah. And it's like, well, what are we doing here? Why are we arguing? We're both working on the same thing. So I think getting clear on the mission is a huge thing, and maybe something that is worth a conversation for our clients with their partners too. I'm sure you've heard about that too, where the
Oh yeah.
partner offers some pushback, and that's a difficult conversation. Probably one for a whole other podcast, but there you go.
Honestly, it is like how to navigate, the I hate to say it, but sometimes the spousal, or if it's a partner, girlfriend, boyfriend relationship, what do they call it, situationship,
Dynamics. Okay. Oh wow.
um
Yeah. There you go.
whatever it is, trying to get
Yeah.
them on board. I think that would actually be a great podcast. One of the
Yeah.
things that going on that a little bit more, motivational interviewing was one of the most pivotal books for me, not just in my coaching career, but also my communication. I'm a communication major. That
Really? I
is,
didn't know that.
yes, yes.
Crazy.
So I did not go to school for fitness or nutrition. I took a few kinesiology classes and absolutely loved them. And I had a guy in there that was like, dude, I've seen you in like 3 or 4 of my classes. Why aren't you majoring in this? I was like, I'm pretty close to communication major. I'm just gonna finish with that.
Nice.
And so, yeah, and my minor is in marketing. And so communicating is definitely something that I am passionate about. But I
Yeah.
would say that no one thing has bolstered my communication with other people than the motivational interviewing books. Oh my god. And not just like with clients, definitely trying to get them, to that point of ambivalence, and sometimes playing the negative, like, oh, you're, how confident are you in this, 1 to 10? And sometimes they'll say 7, and I'm like, all right, why not? A lot of people might think, why not a 10? Like, I should ask, why not a 10? Nope. Ask, why not a 5? Make them
Mm-hmm.
defend themselves, well, I'm a capable individual, I could plan it out. And so it's like, okay, great. And they're starting to talk positively about themselves, and we start building that change talk. That is something that I get so revved up about. As you can see, I'm like lighting up right now. But so we won't necessarily go down that rabbit hole, because I will just talk about it a lot. Let's have another quick topic shift and talk about how you doing on time, by the way. Do you have any appointments or anything like that? You got, how much time you got?
No, no, I am flexible.
Okay. If
Yeah,
you
I'm
don't
good.
mind 10 more minutes or so, I'd love to ask you a few
That's
more.
perfect.
So, what you and I'm sure, did when we first started lifting was training hard. We sent it. Squat, bench, deadlift, push-ups. I know we were going balls to the wall. Maybe not the smartest training, the most intelligent splits or anything like that. And so there is this huge difference between training hard and training smart. And from my perspective, it seems like you emphasize a sustainable approach to muscle growth. I saw in one of your videos you said 3 days per week. I think it was 30 minutes. It may have been 45, but it was a manageable amount of time. This is all you need, and I totally agree with that messaging. So my question to you is, what are the biggest mistakes people make when trying to build muscle, and how do you personally help them fix it?
Nice. Yeah, that's great. For anyone listening who hears 3 by 30 minutes or 3 45-minute workouts per week, and immediately your gut or knee jerk reaction is to be like, nah, no. That immediately tells me, and I'm doing this to challenge you, just your beliefs, that immediately tells me that there is a lot that you stand to learn about lifting, um, especially in the case of training for muscle growth, um, because it really doesn't take a lot to get gains in the gym, time wise, and just overall workload wise. But yeah, so biggest mistakes I see with the training side of things, I would say number one is going in and winging it, not having a plan, not knowing what you're capable of, what you did last week, not being able to benchmark your performance. It kind of leaves you in the dark, and it sucks. Like, it's exciting to me to be like, bro, I just PR'd my preacher curl. I've
Yes,
been doing this
100%.
exercise for 7 weeks. I'm not becoming much more technically proficient or skilled at it neurologically. So that
Right.
gain must be coming from somewhere. Oh my God, my biceps are growing. This is
Muscle.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, like, not only are you missing out on being able to accurately benchmark and say, is my training working? Am I progressing? But you're also missing out on the psychological aspect of being like, wait a sec, this is super exciting and fun, which I think is, if you were to ask 1,000 people who have been training consistently for the better part of a decade, if you were to ask them, what is a thing you like about lifting? I bet you 997 of them would list seeing progression as one of their top five things.
Yeah.
So you're missing out on something that I would say the most successful people unanimously agree is a really fun part of it. You should probably take a look at that. Also, it helps inform your training decisions, and helps you generate a more reliable muscle growth stimulus. If you're
Yes.
going in and throwing random shit at the wall every time you go train, you're like, wow, this exercise and that exercise and this, you are going to have a very hard time generating reliable progress because you're just changing things up all the time. And as much as Tony Horton may have given muscle confusion the popularity that it has, it really is not as well deserved as you might think. Um, so yeah, simplify things by creating a bit of a plan for yourself. That will help you benchmark your performance and see that things are working and feel more motivated by them. And it also helps you avoid sandbagging because if you know that
Yes.
you could preach a curl 25 pounds for 7 reps, when you go into the gym tomorrow, you're going to load up 25 pounds. And if you get three and call it a day, you're either having like the worst day of the month or like maybe you could have probably done a little better.
Yeah.
So I think the logbook is a criminally underutilized training tool for the vast majority of people who go to the gym. Um,
A
yeah.
100% agree. Again, I need to reemphasize, and my next question has this leading into it. Of all the people I follow on social media, you stand out as the coach, not a coach, the coach who has the most practical advice I've ever heard. I follow probably a couple hundred coaches at this point, and again, I genuinely mean this. You stand out as the coach with the most practical advice. I think I hope that the person listening to this pulls over in their car and follows you. But before we, do the whole outro thing, my last question for you is, with this practical advice in mind that you've been giving so graciously over the last hour, I seriously appreciate it so much. If someone is struggling with their diet or training right now, what's the first thing they should focus on to see progress? And I think the logbook, brilliant from the training side of things, but let's just say from a holistic fitness perspective, what's the first step they should take?
Whoa, that's a good question. I would say, I'm going to think about that for a second. If someone is struggling holistically, fitness and nutrition wise, what is the first step they should take? Hmm.
There's a lot of routes you could go.
Yeah, there are. There are no wrong answers, but I
I
think
think
if I,
that
sorry, go ahead.
the cop out answer for me, if I was put on the spot like that, I'm thinking about how would I answer it. I hate to say it, but I'd say ask a question of them. Like what are you struggling with?
Nice, nice.
Because it's
Yeah,
such that's such a cop out answer though.
yeah. You know what I would actually say is just lean into whatever it is that interests you or excites you, even remotely.
Yeah. Yes.
If you're like, I saw a video of a guy doing these like cool push-ups on these things on YouTube, and like, that's sick. I would love to be able to do like a handstand push-up or some shit someday. Forget about the most optimal way of training or whatever. Just lean into going to do that. If you think it's exciting and you think it's fun, that's going to carry you so much further than just looking for getting the most out of it or whatever. And I think the same thing is true on the food side of things. Finding some foods you actually enjoy that you would deem to be helpful with getting you closer to your goals. I think we can all probably realistically know what those types of foods look
Oh
like.
yeah. Oh yeah.
If you like sweet potatoes, go buy some.
Yep.
If you like turkey, if you like pasta, like go buy some and just focus on what's next. I think like this is a crazy concept, but literally anyone you've ever met in your life or seen online who's turned things around for themselves, whether it's with a fitness type situation or they were in a mountain of debt or they had, some type of life altering change, it actually all started with one thing. And that avenue is open to you at any time. It could be one walk, it could be one meal, it could be just you sitting down and making a decision that you're going to commit to doing the thing, whatever it is for you. And there will be times when you backslide. There will be times where it does not feel easy. That may be a day, that may be a week, that may be a month or a year. Um, but starting the process and being like, you know what, I'm just going to do this thing. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be messy sometimes. It's going to be hard. But it starts with this next meal, this next workout. I think just starting it is really the big thing I could recommend to someone. Start with something you're excited in and get started, period.
Love that. I wrote that down and underlined it. Lean into what excites you. I think that is such a brilliant answer, and I couldn't agree more. Finding something, whether it's like in Mike Dola's case, it's fucking pickleball, and he's like,
Awesome.
he's done it. He's it's fucking, and like for so many people, it's pickleball right now, right. But like, I've even seen people get really in shape from, like VR, they're doing
Oh
Beat
yeah.
Saber VR, right? And like that can be a workout. Maybe it is. I want to see how much I can barbell bench press. Like I know for me that was super exciting, and deadlifting and squatting, like back in the powerlifting days, like that was really exciting. But yeah, so trying to find something, some people shit on CrossFit, but like, dude, you can get fit with such a myriad of different things. Like you said, you do not
Yeah.
need to be this hyper optimal guy or gal. You can just do something you enjoy, do it consistently, try to progress in it over time if it's that kind of, thing. And solve the obstacles as they come up and take a little bit of what you need and then add in what you want.
Yeah.
So with like the lifting and the protein, the fiber, like, yeah, those are things that we need. Sorry if you can hear my dog, but, add in the fun stuff too.
Yeah. I
Okay.
bet you there's something in anyone's life who, where they're thinking that can't be like the thing. I love paddling with my friends and we go on these trips like every
That's
month or
awesome.
whatever, but like there's no way that could, yes. Yeah, yeah, that's it actually. Oh my God, like, oh, there's this restaurant around the corner from me, and they do this like sourdough toast with like ricotta and arugula on the side. Like,
Ooh,
I can't actually have that for breakfast. Like, that can't be my. Yes, yeah, yeah. Trust me. Even though it's good or it's a fun activity, that can be it too.
yeah.
So it doesn't have to suck.
Oh, what a line to wrap it up on. I'm
There you
I'm
go.
ending it there. I'm ending
Nice.
it there. Mateo, this has been awesome. Genuinely, you make fitness easier for people, and you deserve all the success you've already achieved and so much more. Thousands of people have benefited from you already. I hope you are able to reach millions and who knows beyond that. Thank you genuinely for coming on. Where can people follow you and learn more about your coaching, your programs, anything you got?
Yeah, I think the best would just be my name, Matteo Marra, on YouTube. We publish a lot of YouTube videos and talk about all the program stuff we have, or Instagram, Matteo Marra. And yeah,
All right. Thank you so much. I will have all of the links for anybody looking for those links. They're going to be in the show notes. So please, please, please scroll down, click the follow button, check out his YouTube, his Instagram, check out his programs. There's a reason he's got 1,200 people on his wait list for his new program. What is it, the 6 week shred, right? Is that, am I?
yeah, yeah. 6 week shred. That's opening up tomorrow, March the 7th. And then we'll probably do a couple more throughout the year.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty wild.
That,
Yeah,
and
really
that
excited
has
about that.
limited spots, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think we're
Okay.
probably just going to limit that one tomorrow, and until we have a bigger team, or
Yeah.
I don't know, Alex. I don't know what we got to do for that one. But I realized that I made a kind of a. I should have done more, but oh well. In any case, yeah, yeah.
All
Six
right.
week shred weight loss program, lots of fun, and yeah, coaching too.
Awesome. All right. Well, all the links, like I said, will be in the show notes. Again, Mateo, thank you so much. And everybody, we're going to wrap it up there. So take care.